Board members, if I can get you to take your seats, we'll continue. I'm not sure if Kathy's still here or not, but that the artwork and the education highlight was really good. That was inspirational. Thank you. Next up, we have our public comment. And Board Member Belknap, can I get you to push that?
Yep, I'll have it ready.
You'll have it ready. Well, first up, we'll hear from Sarah Jones. We have three, so we'll just call one at a time here.
About that tall. That works.
Yeah.
A little higher. Good morning, board members. I'm Sarah Jones with the Utah Education Association. I wanted to speak with you a little bit about licensing today, which you will be addressing later on this afternoon regarding R277501, which I guess is now renumbered 301. So I'm going to have to get my head around that. Yesterday, you received a letter from the UEA outlining some specific concerns we have with the associate license and the LEA specific license. I hope you've had a chance to look at those. Some of those concerns can be addressed by proposed amendments that we've seen online. However, there's a number of other concerns that have not been addressed that we hope you will look at and talk about. For example, there's no limit on the number of LEA-specific licenses an LEA could request. When the APT license was first discussed in 2016, it was presented as an option that would rarely be used, a dozen or two licenses, and only for high needs areas. But today on your consent calendar, your report shows that there are now 322 APT licenses as of March. And another recent report showed that the most common license area is English, not shortage areas like math or science. So this is why the policy language of the current rule, this 501 rule, is so critical. It's not at all clear what the board's intent is with the LEA-specific license. Is the intent actually that most educators achieve professional license status, which I've heard from a number of board members, and that the LEA-specific license be used only in rare circumstances when other licensing pathways are untenable? Because right now the language does not reflect that. Right now there's nothing to prevent a district or a charter school from requesting 5, 10, 15, 20% of licenses be LEA-specific. Also, except for the proposed amendment to prevent LEA-specific licenses from applying to special education, there's no other limit on the license areas. So you have a total of 14 license areas listed on lines 35 to 48. They include school counselor, educational leadership, deaf education. Are those eligible for the LEA-specific license? It's unclear because if certain license areas are not expressly prohibited, are they implicitly allowed? And is this what the board intends? So if you amend it and say we're going to exclude special ed and pre-K special ed, great, but what about the other 12 license areas? How much do you want it to apply to? And since there is no limit on the number of renewals for this license, it in effect becomes a permanent license with no board expectation to meet the expertise required of the professional educator license, which is supposed to be the standards all educators achieve. So these are just a few of the issues that we highlighted in our letter to you that we think remain with the licensing structure. It's really imperative that before you finalize the rule and other licensing rules that are following, you have something like 30 licensing rules to look at, and those are aligned with this Rule 501, there needs to be clear language to define the purpose and the intent of each of the license areas. So we're asking that the board not take final action on the license on this Rule 501 or 301 today. There's still significant questions we think that needs to be resolved, and we think that would be best done at the Law and Licensing Committee level where you can have some give and take with stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll hear from Deirdre Straight.
Hi, my name's Deirdre Straight. I'm a parent in District 7. I just have some concerns about the law and licensing. I'm especially looking through it through an equity lens, especially concerned about maybe the overrepresentation of LEA-specific licenses in schools where there might be a high representation of families with low SES, also newcomers, including English language learners, and other groups that might have suffered challenges to access to excellent educational opportunities. And so in looking through what was Draft 5, some of the things that I thought about, the themes I was thinking about is kind of accountability, especially of the LEAs, with the LEA-specific license to the superintendent and in turn the board. And so I wonder if there's a way to kind of have a little bit more accountability between those LEAs and the superintendent and then in turn the board. One thing we did talk about in the law and licensing meeting that was open to the public, there was in lines 225 to 230 definition of module. And so I just want to know, and maybe this is there a clarification of what a module looks like? There was a debate over whether it's course or module, whether that would be online and whether that would be sort of sufficient. I think we all have had experience where we've had online training that kind of is suboptimal. And so is there something that we can do to better define what that is? Also, in lines 241 to 247, there's discussion of a personalized professional learning plan in the associate's license. And so what does that plan look like? Is that something that can be submitted to the superintendent? I think as of right now, it says that it could be provided upon request, but should we have annual reporting for these other licenses? That's okay. Because I noticed in the educator preparation programs that there's annual reporting, both from the board to the college preparation or the educator preparation programs and then back. So there's that kind of regular reporting and accountability, and so can we take that kind of standard and apply it to both the associates and the SE, at the LEA specific license? You know, and to that point, you know, what is the intent of that LEA specific license? I appreciate the ability of educators to follow different pathways to become educators, and also the flexibility of both superintendents and administrators to be able to hire. But do we want to also bring those educators along to a high standard of preparation? And so one of the things I wanted to highlight was in line 316. It talks about the superintendent shall issue a license. You know, would the superintendent like more discretion, especially because there's such few requirements for the LEA specific? Also, and I'm a new person, I'm just a parent, I haven't been working with all this language, and so it's hard to get up to speed, but in lines 325 to 328, there is that kind of outline of renewals. The first renewal is approved or denied by the board, but subsequent renewals may be approved by the board. What does that look like? That's 3 minutes already? Oh my gosh. Okay. So the other thing is, I'll just wrap up, is just there are requirements for the LEA in terms of mentoring. You know, what does that look like? If we're going to use effective teaching standards for teachers, is there an effective mentoring standard? Can things in mentoring be reported to the superintendent? And then can there be accountability for lines 397 to 398? Or rather 386 to 406, where the LEAs or private schools shall adopt policies. You know, will the board or the superintendent audit those, the implementation of those, or can they report to the board or the superintendent? And then when the superintendent does report to the board about equitable distribution and licensing, the superintendent will have more information and have a deeper set of data points to reflect what is going on and how we're bringing along those LEA-specific licensed teachers to that higher standard. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Catherine Vutez. Votez or Vutez? I think it's Vutez. I hope I get that right. I apologize if I say.
That's fine. Thank you. I'm here to tell you my story and hopefully to elicit a response and a reply, and to implore you to think about what's going on in the various districts, specifically Jordan District. On June 3rd, 2017, my son Chandler Butte committed suicide in my home, and I found him in the morning. He was the first of several in that district. As of yesterday, that total is 6. I've thought about what to say to you, and I can tell you that this has been obviously the hardest thing that my family has ever faced. I didn't realize how many and what was going on in our community until I saw a news article in KSL that brought it to my attention. Shortly before that, a friend of Chandler's 8 months to the day took his life. And then 11 months to the day yesterday, another individual, a child, took his life. I don't purport to know what is going on in our district. I don't purport to understand all of the things that teenagers go through. I have 5 children altogether between my husband and myself. I only understand that it impacted us like a bomb going off and the shrapnel that went around through my family and through the children and his brothers and sisters, to teachers, to the detectives that have been on the job trying to solve this, to the medical examiner who I did the interview with last week, to go through and find out and try to find out what is going on with the children out there in Jordan District. In all of this, I tried to do some research as to why. Why would my son, he's an AP student, he's concurrent enrollment, he had to look forward to his trip to go to Spain, he had what I believed is loving parents who loved him and wanted him to succeed. Why would my child do that? He did not meet any of the criteria that you would think of mental illness and what it is. It's tragic. He wanted to be an oncologist. He was a self-taught piano player, amazingly so. It's tragic. It's a loss to the entire community and to this world that he's gone. It's a loss to the entire world and community that these other children are taking their lives without understanding what is going on. So I had my interview with the medical examiner last Friday. He asked me a whole bunch of questions that I believe are entirely relevant to what is going on. Background, mental health. Education, what was he like? He had no understanding of what was really going on out there and the relationships between these children. And it is only through the interview process that we understand what is going to go on and to make an action plan that will help the children in each of these districts. And then I also found out, through my own ignorance, that this is a pervasive problem in Utah, and it has been continuing and increasing through my ignorance because I had not paid attention to it, because I did not think that my child was at risk. I'm here to tell you that all of them are at risk. There's something going on, and you all have the ability to make a difference. And that is to have suicide prevention plans in place at each of the districts, to have suicide response plans in place at each of the districts, and to make sure that the administration and teachers have the support. Have support out there. In talking to the principal, Birch, just the other day, he's going to lose counselors. He's going to lose people that are intrinsic to the health and support of the children that are out there, because they just can't stand the grief that's attached to it. They will go into someplace else. They will go someplace else. So if my story in any way, if I could just get this out to all of you, is please, please, please help these children that are in distress. Please, please, please make sure that those programs are approved. And it's also my understanding that this board has control over that they can request from the districts to make sure that they have those plans in place and you can do review. That's statutorily, apparently, part of all of what your directive is. So I am imploring you, please, please, give us the support out there, especially in Jordan District, that we can have that in place. I also want to just appreciate and make a note of everyone that I have encountered, every detective that I've spoken to, the police officer that came on 2 calls to my house because I had not only my child but his friend pass away within a short distance, that they are very much appreciated. In these times of crisis, it is only those people that we can reach out to, and it includes not only our own family but also all the support that the school did give us. I mean, the principal called right away. I had the philosophy teacher over on my doorstep that day. I had AP teachers coming to his funeral that I hadn't even met. Honestly, I hadn't met. But I just want to let you know that everyone out there really wants to find a solution to this. I don't know of one who does not. And I just want to thank you for your time in listening to my short story related to it. And I expect great things from all of you to be able to like change what we have here in Utah. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. This concludes our public comment portion of our board meeting.